Tech is brought to you by Molecule. For $75 off your first order, visit molecule.com and enter the promo code Andrew. That's MOLEKULE.com and the promo code Andrew. Slack is a messaging app which brings together all your team's communication into one place, making work simpler and more productive. Go to slack.com to learn more.
What's the tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Major Zarin. Of course, I'm joined by the one, the only, Mr. Wonderful, Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
Hello, Andrew.
You know, I forgot how so you guys hear the intro, obviously when we start the show. I don't hear it anymore for some reason. You hear it, and it's very loud. I know that's very loud because everybody hates this intro. I know Paul likes it.
This intro.
I know. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to compromise. There is a new intro being made as we speak. The new intro will debut.
And on whose order, Andrew?
On the order of the fans. It's on the order of the fans. So we will keep it's a modified version of this. Let me just say that. Okay. We're still going to get the What the Tech. We're still going to have some of that electronic early 90s thing that we have going.
I see what's happening.
So we're just cutting it because it's too much. It's too much. How you doing, Paul? How are you? Good.
I'm pretty good.
Yeah, it's the end of the year, man. It's December 11th right now. It's wild. The year is over. 2018 is at a close. It was a wild 2018 for me. Let me just tell you that. If you guys have been listening to the Patreon exclusive show, you guys have a very good insight of what has been happening in my life. If you haven't, you could always go to patreon.com/whatthetech and fund me. It's the end of the year. Listen, people donate all the time. You could donate to the show. You could fund the show as little as $1 per episode, and it helps us going along. Listen, if we hit, I have goals, right? If we hit a certain goal I have on there, which we're redoing a lot of that, I think it's going to be, if we hit $500 per episode, Paul and I are going to do a nude cast. Right? Is that what we agreed on?
You're going to have to give me most of that $500.
No, we have a lot of cool stuff. We want to do a call-in show. We have a phone system here that we're going to implement. We are going to do a couple more live things. So there's a lot going on here. We just got to get it back to where it was. And, taking off for so long and not being consistent really impacts things. But, you have my full commitment now that I'm, jobless. So it's very easy to be committed to doing things like this, Paul. I don't know if you know that. When you have no job... and the panic sets when your property tax payments come in. You really want to do stuff. So we have a lot of those payments. Yeah, we have a lot of cool stuff happening. Today, obviously, is the worst of tech in 2018. Now, this is a little tongue in cheek. Some of the stuff was also on our best of list. So it's the fails of certain companies, and we could talk about a great product, which I have some really amazing products on my list that ultimately came up a little short, and things that we were disappointed in. I want you guys to participate with us in this because it's always fun to see what you guys think. It's interesting to get the perspective of others when it comes to things that I don't use. For example, I had a lot of when I put it out and I said, epic fails for, give me your tech fails of 2018. You know how many people told me Alexa and how many people told me Google Home, and I wouldn't have added that to my list, and they explained why it was a negative for them, and I was like, oh, you know what? That kind of makes sense. So I have some of those that I'm going to throw at the end of the show, but Paul and I have compiled a list here of some really awesome stuff. Paul, I know I do want to touch on the Edge browser stuff also before this, because there was some development after we spoke about it last week on the show. Literally right after we spoke about it, Microsoft the following day made a announcement regarding this. So I do want to go into that before we go down our list. But before we do, I do want to thank our great sponsor here. And for people listening to the show, listening live, you kind of got some input on our idea and how we do advertising on What the Tech. We only advertise products that we use, or I use, or Paul uses. And Molecule is one of those companies that after my construction nightmare in this house. My house is 120 years old. I got my molecule, I set it up, and I've been running it for about a month now. And I've been dying to talk about my experience with this thing. So Molecule is the world's first molecular air purifier. So it reduces the symptoms of allergy and asthma sufferers. I have terrible environmental allergies. It is, I'll explain to you once I explain to you what this is. So the way that it works, Molecule replaced the 50-year-old antiquated technology of the HEPA filter. Yes, it's great and it cleans the air, but there are also particles that it does not catch in a HEPA filter. Things like, things that Molecule is able to catch are mold, bacteria, viruses, airborne chemicals. That includes pollutants 1,000 times smaller than what a HEPA filter could get or could catch. I got the Molecule, and it came in this box. I opened it up, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's like something out of the future, how this thing looks. I pulled it out, and immediately I set it up in my living room because we've had about 4 months of construction happening in my house. And the dust in 120, you move something in a 120-year-old house, you start banging on something, everything comes flying down. It was really bad, the dust problem. I was congested. I also have the glass, Paul. Did you set yours up yet? Your glass thermostat?
My who what? Oh no, I couldn't do it. I'm gonna have to have someone come in and do it.
So the cool thing about the glass thermostat is that it actually tells you your air quality in the house. And every day it would tell me that it was poor and that I should open up the window every day. So I said, you know what? This is actually a great way to kind of test this product. We're talking about it. We're advertising them. By the way, you get $75 off your first order. Visit molecule.com and enter the promo code Andrew at checkout. That's MOLEKULE.com. That's molecule.com. So I set up the Molecule in my living room, and it gives you options, determining, do you want it on the strongest, do you want it on medium, or do you want it on silent so you can run at night? I put it on automatic, it determined it, so the middle setting. I didn't put it on boost or the highest version. I ran this thing for a week in my living room, and this is my childhood house, by the way, so I kind of understand, how dusty it gets, and I've grown up with this. So I have a window that shines the sunlight right down into my living room, and I could see the dust in the air. I've always been able to see it, and it's bothered me always because I'm always congested, and no matter how much I clean, no matter what air purifier I've used, I've never been able to kind of eliminate that dust that I could see coming in, through the light. Since I put Molecule, I don't see it anymore. And that's been my gauge as to how well this thing is working. I don't see the dust in the room through the light. So I said, you know what? This is great. I'm going to now start from the attic, and I'm going to go all the way down. Once a week, I move the thing. So 1 week I had it. 1 week I had it in the attic. 1 week I had it on the second floor. I had it on the first floor, and then I put it in the basement. And I have to tell you, I'm not as congested. The house is a lot cleaner. I could tell you firsthand that this thing works, and it works really well. I'm really proud that they're part of the show. I'm really proud that they're on with us, and I use it every day. So right now, Paul, it's in my basement because that's where my cat is. Right, his litter box is in the basement, so I put it down there to kind of move the air around a little bit in the basement, especially in the summer, in the winter with the heat running. Everything kind of just becomes stale, So I have it down there, and I'm going to move back up. So I'm moving it once a week. I move it from floor to floor, which is pretty cool. Molecule.com. That's MOLEKULE.com. You get $75 off your first order when you enter the promo code Andrew. That's molecule.com, promo code Andrew. Listen, this is my personal endorsement of the product. I would say it regardless of them advertising or not. I was very surprised at how well it worked. I've heard great stuff about it from some of the viewers that use it. It's a great piece of technology. Also, I run everything from my phone, which is awesome. I could, if I know that I want to give it a little bit more, boost, I just hit it on the highest setting. I can put it on the lowest setting. It's absolutely great. I absolutely love them. That's molecule.com. Go check it out. Go to their website and check it out. If you suffer from allergies like me, this is something to consider. Molecule.com, offer code Andrew. Promo code Andrew, and you get $75 off your first order. I want to thank them for supporting the show. You see how happy I am to talk about a product that I love, but it's serious as well. This thing really changed my comfort level in my house. My dad also has this eye condition, which I didn't go into. He has a really bad eye condition where he can't sit in my living room ever. He has to be out of my living room because there's something in my living room that really affects his eyes. He's been fine. My father's convinced that it's the new TVs that do it to him.
Oh, jeez.
That's what he tells me. He tells me I should have never gotten rid of my plasma, and and this new Vizio that I have in my living room has ruined his eyes. So I actually put the molecule in there, and he was fine. So let's go. So that was actually a best of that I was talking about. But let's talk about some of the worst of. Actually, no, I take that back. Let's talk about Edge, or not Edge. So we spoke about it last week. This was breaking news. It was still speculation. It wasn't 100%, but it made a lot of sense. What was the latest after we did the show?
So they announced that they are doing this. This being moving Edge from its proprietary Microsoft rendering engine to a browser that's based on Chromium, the open source project on which Google Chrome is based. And the official Microsoft announcement was pretty vague. I found it very interesting and sad that they didn't mention the word Google once, which I think says a lot. But then there was a more technical release from the Edge team who actually did mention Google at least, although they never mentioned Edge HTML, which is the current Microsoft Edge rendering engine, which is a little strange. But
yeah,
there's a lot of questions around this still. There's some controversy around it, of course. There's some people who feel like in the Microsoft community who feel that this is another capitulation by Microsoft. There are some people who are afraid of a monoculture or a monopoly on the web that is being handed to Google, even though Google technically doesn't really own Chromium. Microsoft intends to become a major contributor to the Chromium open source project. We'll see. I mean, right now, it kind of appears that they're going to retain the Edge brand. I think they're going to try to make it look and work as much like the current version of Edge as they can. They're going to build as much as they can into Chromium, which will benefit other browsers as well, including Chrome. So if you think about something like using scrolling with your hand, with multi-touch, that's something that was really garbage on Chrome right now. They're going to work on that and hopefully get it into Chromium. And if they do, that will benefit all Chromium-based browsers, not just Edge.
Yeah. So
they're going to retain extensions.
We after we spoke about this, I posted a clip of this, and there were a lot of really interesting feedback that I got in the comment section on Twitter, and something that I was trying to kind of put out there. A lot of people were poo-pooing on this and saying it's too late, it's over, it's not going to make a difference. Edge is done. They lost their confidence. People lost their confidence in Edge because it was so buggy. It was released when it wasn't, and a lot of it was fact, right? A lot of it was definitely accurate criticism of the application. But what people need to remember also is perception. Perception changes a lot. So by going over to Chromium, and let's say they build a phenomenal browser. It's all the things that we wanted. And some of the tech bloggers start writing about this. Some of the tech websites start saying Edge is back and Microsoft is back in the game. For Microsoft, they're not looking to get 15% market share. They know that's going to be impossible. But right now, they're at about 3.5. 2 points on that is a blockbuster in earnings.
Okay, so I'm not 100% sure that getting browser market share is the point per se. Microsoft has a rich history of making decisions where it's kind of one of those Solomon type things where you have to disadvantage one half of the equation to benefit the other. And there's some nasty terms Microsoft has used in the past to describe these. I will avoid that term today. But, for example, when Microsoft was running into antitrust problems early on with Windows 95 and bundling their own online service, MSN, with that version of the OS, they reached an agreement at the last minute where they would have links to CompuServe and AOL and Prodigy. I don't remember the exact list of things that a Genie or something, whatever the services were. And they would make them available alongside MSN inside Windows 95. And the point to that was they could have put a fight up. They could have put up a fight to try to save this fledgling thing. But the truth was Windows was way more important than MSN to Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
So they killed MSN basically. I mean, it was, they made that decision. And so when you look at Microsoft Edge today, just a couple of things that I think are really relevant. Microsoft, like Mozilla, no, not like Safari, although Safari does a little bit with the WebKit community, I'm sure. There's all these different other things that are not Chromium that make web browser rendering engines that have to adhere to web standards that change a lot and evolve over time. And it's not a checklist, although there are checklists, right? Does the browser conform to this spec? Yes. And you go down the list, you get scores. You can go up to a site. Does it render certain things? And you get these scores. It's neat to get a high score on a test like that, but that's really not enough because you have to not just do the thing, you have to do it consistently with every other browser on earth. And so it's still a problem for a web developer to create web apps or websites because they render a little bit differently in different cases on different things in different places. And so one of the ways you can kind of remove uncertainty from this kind of thing is by adopting a de facto standard, which Chromium is, contributing to it. It's an open source project, and then innovating on top of that on the browser and on the application itself. And I think that's the right approach. Microsoft realized they were just hitting their head against the wall. That there's no benefit at all to them creating their own rendering engine. But as far as like the browser, not the browser, that kind of thing, long term, the bigger deal here is Windows, right? And Microsoft's never going to win the browser market. Like it is not. I mean, it's a Chrome world. It's just the way it is. That could change in the future, whatever. But let's face it, it's not going to be Microsoft. By conforming to Chrome, essentially to Chromium, right? By adopting Chromium, Microsoft knows that the majority of its users are going to have a consistent experience that today will be in the browser, no matter what browser they use. That's good for developers. They only have to target a couple of different things now. Or really just target one, but let's say a couple. It's good for users, right? It's obvious it's good for IT. It's good for support. It's good for everything. And it doesn't matter if they're using Edge or Chrome, because they'll see the same thing. Longer term, they'll do it side by side first, but eventually they'll replace the old thing where they bring Chromium into the operating system for web apps and for store apps that use a web view of some kind. They can't just flip a switch and go to Chromium there because there are so many apps out in the world that rely on the peculiarities of the Edge HTML rendering engine. But what they are going to do is tell developers, hey, if this thing's still actively supported, move it to Chromium because you're going to get better performance, better battery life, better features, and better compatibility. And it will hasten the rise of web apps on the Windows platform.
Interesting.
And again, as far as like the browser itself, the browser is the number one application that anyone uses in Windows for the most part. It's the number one application in Windows. Web browsers, it's number one. But as web apps get broken out from the browser, which we already see to some degree, a little bit in Edge, it's actually pretty terrible. It's pretty good in Chrome today. This is kind of a core feature of the app platform moving forward for Microsoft and Windows. And so it's super important that the core of that thing be as good as it can be. And again, so you I don't know, maybe you use Opera. Opera uses Chromium. Maybe you can't use Safari on Windows, but Brave or something, which uses Chromium. Use Microsoft Edge, use Chrome. It doesn't matter. Those are all based on the same thing. You're going to have a consistent web experience in Windows going forward, guaranteed. And I think that's the real point of all this.
Very well said. I wanted to give you a couple minutes to kind of go into
yes.
it because is a lot of feedback regarding this. A lot of feedback.
Yeah, no, people, it's a human thing. Like even my initial reaction to this was kind of like, wow, really? And then you kind of, once you deal with the news aspect of it, it's like, okay, well, is the reason they're saying they're doing this, does that make sense? And does it, and this was one of those things where you kind of work through it and you're like, yes, this is good news. I understand the fear and the uncertainty and doubt and, that people have. I try to counter that with the logic of what's actually happening, whatever. But I really do feel like this is a net positive for everybody.
Yeah.
The other thing,
Also,
just real
yeah.
quick, I mean, because this kind of ties into the worst of we're going to talk about a little bit today. We do live in an era of privacy violations and privacy concerns, and I think there is room in the market for browsers for a browser that is essentially Google Chrome, but with all of the Google tracking pulled out of it. And we actually do see some efforts along those lines today.
Yeah, Opera does that.
But Opera does it, doesn't get a lot of press. Brave does it, but Brave is a tiny company. Nobody knows about Brave. It's possible that Microsoft, through its market, might be able to make a go of this and make it make some sense.
Listen, perception. I understand. Everything you said, very valid, right? But if we're talking about consumer, what the consumer thinks, listen, we see the news cycle and how that is. We see how the blogs are. We've spoken about this for a long time. We spoke about it. Remember when Windows Phone? Remember that whole thing? How everybody hated Windows Phone, and all of a sudden there was an update and nothing really changed, and Windows Phone is back. I mean, obviously we know that we know what happened with Windows Phone, but again, it was the perception that changed, and the few people that are able to kind of dictate what that perception should be really changed the tone for people that aren't really aware of what Windows Phone is. I remember doing the show, and I remember people asking me, like, oh, I heard it's back. It's doing great now. I go, nothing's changed. It's the same exact thing. Nothing.
I guess it depends on who you talk to. But, Microsoft in the past has exaggerated the number of people that use Microsoft Edge. And we know that you can look at you can choose whoever you want to choose, any web market research company, 3 to 4% of the world is using Microsoft Edge. It's not a big number. And when, there's 700 million people using Windows 10, this suggests that some small somewhere in the teens percentage, the number of users on Windows 10 are using the built-in browser. That's astonishing because the power of defaults, the apps that come with the OS, people actually do use those all the time. Like usage, the reason companies bundle things is because the usage does skyrocket. It's a strategy that actually works. That's why IE was such a big deal back in the late 90s and early 2000s, and why Microsoft got in trouble with antitrust. So the fact that it's not working for Edge tells me very clearly that people have tried it when they upgraded to Windows 10 or got a new PC with Windows 10, and they were like, and at some point they hit that thing where it didn't work or didn't look right or wasn't the same, and they were like, no, I'm going to go to the trouble of downloading Google Chrome typically, or some other browser. If Edge can get to the point where that doesn't happen, because it is essentially Google Chrome, but it looks more natural in Windows maybe, or has better integration with the Microsoft ecosystem, or doesn't have the Google tracking, that's great. And by the way, if it doesn't work, it's great too, because the real point, like I said, is not so much the browser app, which is an application. It's Windows, and making it make sense for Windows.
Yeah. Very cool stuff, Paul. I was glad you spoke about this, because maybe it'll add a lot of question to rest that I've been getting over.
It's not going to, but
yeah. I do want to talk about the worst stuff, which is next. A lot of people are excited. I'm getting tweets. Guys, you could tweet me with your worst tech of 2018 at Andrew Zarian, and of course at The Rod, and at What the Tech GFQ. You could tweet us while we're doing the show for the next hour or so. Before we continue, I want to thank our great sponsor. We want to talk about another great sponsor, and that's Slack. Before I left my job, I implemented Slack, which they continue to use to this day. Thank you, Slack, for supporting What the Tech. Slack is a collaboration hub that lets you organize your team's work into channels where everyone is included, relevant information is in one place, and new team members can easily catch up. Every time I do this read, a friend of mine keeps calling me. So I'm going to hang up on him while we're talking about this. He knows we're doing a show. Maybe, you know what? I think he's calling to talk about Slack, because he uses Slack at work too. It's a phenomenal collaboration hub. So essentially what I had done was there was a big communication problem in my company where nobody was communicating properly. Things were missing. Everybody was missing emails. That urgent effort that everybody is needed to put in, all of a sudden about 3 or 4 people never got the email. Well, that kind of ended when I implemented Slack, where everybody, starting from ownership to management to staff to the directors to everybody has their own group, and information could be easily given to them and they could communicate amongst each other. Or I had a central group where everybody was getting everything, if it was relevant to everybody knowing. What I did, and I was so tired because I handled the digital aspect of the business, I got tired of everybody emailing me and messaging me saying, hey, do you have the images for this week's promotion? Do you have images for this? Do you have images for that? So what I would do every Monday at midnight, I would post, because I was working late, I would post the week's images in one channel called Pictures. And that was it. Made my life a lot easier. Also, it integrates with over 1,000 apps like Zendesk, Salesforce, Google Drive. The list goes on and on. The app is available on iOS and Android for seamlessly syncing. So this is great. Go and find out more where work happens. Go to slack.com. That's slack.com to find out more. Slack, where work happens. I want to thank Slack for supporting What the Tech. Oh, Josh, I'm gonna drown you for calling me while I did that live read. I was doing a live read. You called me on the air, and I called you out. Josh's sister's a very famous actress, by the way. I think you've met Josh. Very famous actress. I'm gonna call her and yell at her about it. Let's talk about the worst of 2018. Well, this is the moment that we enjoy. So talking about the worst, I am celebrating this as I have for the last 8 years, where during the worst of 2018, I drank Budweiser out of a mug.
Oh boy.
That is what we are doing. So
I have a doctor's appointment later today, so I'm going to drink water out of a glass.
So this is my my big 22 ounce. Is it 22 ounce? I think it is. A Budweiser. We're going to put it in my mug. And now we are going to enjoy the worst of 2018 with a terrible
putting
beer.
That in your mouth is the worst of 2018.
Yeah, this is the worst, and this is how we're going to begin the worst of 2018. Cheers. All right, so let's begin. Do you want me to go? Because I put in some effort on this one. I also have a lot of messages.
I did not.
No, last week I dropped the ball last week. I totally forgot that I got to write this. So we're kind of on the same page. I know that we have a couple that would be the same. So I'm going to go with stuff that is separate. I'm going to begin with stuff that you didn't add on yours. And
before you do that,
yeah.
What do you think the single worst personal technology event or story or whatever of 2018 was? What was the worst?
I have one. I need to elaborate as to why. I think the new internet that we live in, right?
Okay.
Of censorship and just the way that people behave online, the way that people behave on social media. I think it culminated in this year, and we really saw the worst of people come out. I think the immaturity of this technology, of social networks,
coupled with the toxic nature of our president,
everything all in all, right? Everything all in all,
no matter what side you're on.
No matter what side you're on, it's gotten very toxic. I have issues with censorship. That doesn't mean I'm against censorship, but I have.
Doesn't mean you're for censorship.
Listen, you know what my thought process is, and I'll never be right because and I don't want to get into it because I'll be wrong to everybody because I don't pick a side. I'm not I'm not a team player in that sense. I think that we as people need to understand that this isn't how we behave in the real world. So we shouldn't behave this way online. I got a scathing message the other day from somebody, and it was racist because they assumed I was something else. And it was like a very angry, racist message accusing me of things. I mean, it was really like coming out of like a really
insane email from someone about, I guess it was about Apple. It was so poorly written, it was kind of unclear. what he was, but based on the context, it was there was some scatological stuff about my mother, but the basic gist of it was that I need to shut the F up because I am screwing with people's 401ks by reporting bad information about
Yeah.
Apple, essentially. And
by the way, I get that on the wrestling side. I got the same exact email
Yeah.
on the wrestling side when I was very vocal about them going to Saudi Arabia. So I get that. This guy sent this message, and he goes, "I've been a listener for many years, and I always imagined you to look a certain way, and then I finally saw you, and I said, I can't support this guy." And
what?
and his reason why was, if I get into it, it's going to get political. I can't even get into it. But his reasoning
Is it
was
because you look like an Arab terrorist?
Essentially that's what he said. But
Yeah.
because I have said certain things on other shows that, by the way, he was very left leaning. Okay, that was the irony here. That was a total irony here, right? He was a
guy going to work to your advantage because it sounds like he probably doesn't have a gun.
He essentially said that I'm a sellout to my people, and
So,
that
and who
that
does he
he's
think
proving
your people are?
and he's proving I'm proving the right by me being by me saying certain things like that my people are this and my people are that, because he doesn't like my tone and my aggression towards certain time. So this started off by a conversation about podcasting. Let me just begin that. It was a conversation about podcasting, and he did not like my the way that I was confident in what I was saying. So he was trying to insult me and call me a
hold on a second.
Yeah.
The problem is you and I are to some degree public people or personas or whatever. I think the real issue, so we're going to get some degree of that just by nature of the fact we're putting our faces out there and our names and our opinions and whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'll tell you what he said. I'll tell you, he essentially said, I'm a dirty Arab. This is what he said. He said, I'm a dirty Arab and I'm a sellout to my people, and I should blow up.
Andrew.
Go. Sorry.
Yeah, but you are a public person. You're going to get that.
Person,
of course. The bigger issue here is this toxicity is impacting everybody, right? You can't get on Twitter or Facebook or even Instagram to some degree now and not be outraged by the stupidity that occurs there. And like the simple act of posting a picture of a group of friends at a meal or at a party, or a picture of your family, which, by the way, if I had young kids today, I would never put them on social media.
It's tough.
The insanity that can occur from not just people you don't know, which again, you got to kind of expect it a little bit, but from the people you do know is what has ruined the internet, I think, for everybody. Yeah. I think that's the bigger issue.
So like I second guess everything I type now. Everything. And that has nothing to do with this guy, and I'll go a little bit more into it. But everything
but Andrew, but if you do that, then the terrorists win.
Yes. They do.
See, you can't do that. In fact, I think honestly, one of the things you and I and others like us can do is not succumb to this awfulness. And I have to tell you, I get on Twitter and I turn into an insane person. It's hard because ultimately we are just people. And but I honestly did I tell you the story? I think I might have told it on this podcast, but the story about my cousin Chris, who I don't actually visit Facebook that often, but one day I just happened to go on and I'm kind of scrolling down, and I usually hit the point where I've had enough because it's anti-Trump this or blah 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 that, whatever it is. It's all this political nonsense. And Chris, my cousin, like I said, like I grew up with him. I've known him, my whole life, obviously. Published wrote a thing. He's like, hey, I was driving in Pennsylvania. Did I tell you the story? No. Doesn't matter what the road, but he's on the highway in Pennsylvania, not in Pennsylvania, in Connecticut, sorry. And he saw a classic Camaro of some kind. I forget the year now, but he's like, he's like, he goes, this is really cool. I just saw a mint condition 1981, let's say, Camaro. It was on Route 84 next to the name of some town. And I saw that and I thought that's interesting. And there were some replies to it, which I, again, normally wouldn't take the time, but I looked at them and God help me. One of his friends wrote, Route 84 doesn't go by the name of whatever the town was. And it's like this completely missing the point.
Missed the point.
Or he said Route 84 doesn't go through the town, whatever the town name was. And my cousin replied to him and said, I didn't say it went through the town. I said I was on the road and it going by the town. So the town was off to the side somewhere. I was just trying to say roughly where it was. And then the guy argued back, it actually doesn't go by the town either. And he's like, look, I'm not going to break out a map and show you that you're wrong. But like, seriously, like what? Yeah. No, like what would possess someone to like, it's like you don't have pets, do you? You don't have any pets?
I do. I have two pets. I have a cat and a dog.
Okay. Why don't I know this? Anyway,
I'm very offended that you don't know that.
I know. I'm a little weirded out by that too. But, we've had cats for a long time. We have a dog now. And one thing I've noticed with the cats is they seek attention, even if it's negative attention. So they'll do things that they know are going to cause me to yell at them. And I think they kind of enjoy it. And I think we've reached the point online where that's all it is. It's like, I'm just going to interact with you.
Yeah.
But because everything is such a shit bomb of terribleness, I'm going to interact with you in a bad way. Whereas if we were having a conversation in person, if I was like, dude, this is really exciting. I just saw this awesome Camaro, blah, blah, blah. And you wouldn't have interrupted the story with, that's actually not where that road goes, by the way.
I would just let it go. Who cares where it goes? Who cares?
It has nothing to do with the story.
Yeah.
I mean, like almost nothing. I mean, but that kind of thing, I saw that and I was like, that's the problem right there. That the interactions we have on the internet have devolved to that.
Yeah.
For everybody.
And that's on like the petty scale,
it's just on the pointless scale. No, it's noise, Andrew. Like, when I go on Twitter, for me, I'm sorry to keep interrupting.
No, keep going. No, keep going.
When I go on Twitter, I'm there for a very specific reason. Sometimes I want to have some fun. Sometimes I'm, just talking about what's going on. There's always this noise that occurs. There's always the stupid reply. Or if I post something on Instagram, there'll be the unbelievably pointless, vaguely passive aggressive. And I have shown so many of these things to my wife where I'm like, somebody took the time to type this. I told you the story about, I don't remember if I here or not, but I posted a picture of our turkey brining for Thanksgiving. And there was ice in the thing. And someone said, why do you bother spending the money on ice? You could have just put it outside.
I saw that. Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I can afford ice. And like, what are you talking about? I have the recipe. I can make more of it.
Yeah.
Plus,
you know what the proper answer would have been? That looks great. Cool.
No, the proper answer would be nothing.
Or nothing.
Just like it or don't. It's such a weird, antagonistic, like off-ball response. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead. No, so before I move on from this insaneness.
You dirty Arab.
I do need to finish that story. So he ended it with essentially saying, I'm a dirty Arab, and that I'm a disgrace to my people, and that like essentially that my people blow themselves up because they're fighting for a cause, and I'm just I'm throwing that all away.
Yeah,
like
it made that you could have embraced.
First of all, there's so many problems here. The beginning is the first one is I'm not Arab. So in his weird thing that he wrote to me to kind of like defend Middle Easterners, he ended up coming out to be a tremendous racist and an assumptionist that I'm Arab because I have dark complexions. And all I wrote to him was, that's great, but I'm not Arab.
Sure.
And he goes, well, you effing look it.
Right.
He was so blinded by rage and anger, his real opinion on a group of people came out. And those are the moments that I truly feel victory with insane people.
Okay.
because when you know, like honestly, I and I'll talk about another situation on the post show because which I dealt with yesterday. But I have
Mhm.
hit the I don't give an F, portion of my life at 35 years old. I really don't care anymore, and I go at it with people. When I really feel, I don't shut up anymore
Well,
about this kind of stuff. Like normally, I would
that,
just let it go. And for many years, Paul, I'm a public person. I got to be careful what I say, and I'm very careful with the way that I lay things out. But I've been having insane conversations from people, and I just nod and I smile, just so I don't possibly offend. I don't even care anymore. I really don't. And this guy
all right.
was just like the catalyst to me just saying like, dude, you're effing nuts. You're assuming all these things about me, my family, where I come
So
from. I mean,
it's five of two.
yeah.
We've used up the entire hour on
Oh
this.
my God, I know. All right, so let's continue. So we'll do it on the post show. But
I'm just
but back to what I was saying.
uh,
My main problem is the way that we handle ourselves on social media. It's disgusting.
yeah, yep. It
And I
makes
hope you're
everyone crazy.
happy. I hope you're happy that you asked me that question because I really was going to talk about Google and their inability to create an identity for platforms like Google Plus and Hangouts. And YouTube's big identity problem. I was going to talk about Google, but now
Well,
you
we
you
still
veered
can.
me into insanity. But can we talk about Google and their problems? Can I go into
Sure.
that?
I mean, I think
So
this factors in this.
yeah, so Google has a real, and we've spoken about this for many years, and I thought we were past Google's beta mentality. And I'm not saying that in that they're submissive men. I'm saying in the sense that they launch products as beta products, and then it never comes out of beta, and they just kill it because now they're a company that actually has consumer goods, and they have many many millions of people that use platforms, and they have to have a vision. I think Google Plus was a great idea of creating a platform just to be competition and not having a vision for it.
Right.
So Google Hangouts is done. I'm sorry, Google Plus is done. Google
Yeah.
Hangouts is turning into I was told meetings, Google Meetings, which is
Yeah.
what they
Two
do
things.
for
Google. I think it's Hangout Meet and Hangout Chat.
whatever it is. So again, no idea why they're doing this. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
YouTube has a tremendous identity problem right now. I'm not a YouTuber. I've always kind of I don't think I'm good at that at creating YouTube style content. I know what I'm good at. I like traditional, broadcasting, conversational radio style stuff. That's why my demo for my audience is a little bit older than it should be. But I'm comfortable with that. I love it. I think we have the best audience for what we do. I think YouTube right now has a tremendous identity problem, and it kind of showed in that YouTube wrap up video that they create every year. You know that their
Yeah.
whole like they do this year in rewind, and it features YouTubers and pop culture stuff, and it really they've become a bizarre message that doesn't represent their user base. And that's because they've gotten really big and they've gotten bloated, and I don't think they
Hmm.
know what their identity is. Is it a video social network site? Is it a production? Is it a
Sure.
production level quality studio? So they have a tremendous identity problem. And I'm not saying that one is right and one is wrong. My question is, YouTube starting to kind of do these weird, kind of crappy moves by their content creators really is signifying the direction of the company. And the good thing is this may possibly open up a competitor that can actually compete with them.
I don't know. I don't know. I agree they're struggling with the identity thing. You must have seen the story about YouTube, like Amazon, like Netflix, like Hulu, like Apple soon. Apple now, I guess, is going to makes their own content, right? YouTube Originals, I think they call it, or something. And the original plan was they were going to charge for it, like other services charge for that stuff, and now they're just going to give it away and make it ad based because nobody wants to pay YouTube for anything.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of the thing the monster they've created is it doesn't support kind of a strong premium model, unfortunately. So yeah, I use YouTube a lot. I have to say, I will say that in our field, in the same way that I might be unimpressed with the quality of younger bloggers, I'm really unimpressed with the quality of most of the YouTube personalities who, you know, make videos about phones or laptops or whatever. I do find some people that I like from time to time, but a lot of times, like the top guys, are shockingly unknowledgeable about the, you know, the market that they cover or
Yeah.
whatever they're doing, and they're more, and it's more entertainment and personality than it is good information. And you know, if you're gonna, it's, you know, I don't know. I just, I'm not, I don't have the capacity or willpower to make these kind of videos for sure. But I find myself very turned off by them personally. You know,
By that style of content.
yeah, just the, hey, you know, hey dogs, you know, it's, you know, the hat's on backwards.
Hey
and,
guys,
you know,
Andrew
like,
Zarian here, and today we're going to go
what's
down the
up?
top 10
You know,
list of flat Earth theories.
yeah, 5 reasons why you don't want to buy the new MacBook Air. You know, it's like, oh, go screw yourself. It's so, it's just so stupid. There is some good stuff out there. Don't get me wrong, and I would say of the content I watch on YouTube, a huge chunk of it is tech related for sure. But this kind of this, you know, and I don't mean to single out this kind of person, but it's like the young pretty girl who blog or makes vlogs or whatever it is about fashion, blah blah blah, gets like the gold MacBook Air and like I'm gonna unbox it and like how cute everything is. And I guess there's a market for that, but it's not a very credible kind of a thing, and it's not of interest to me for sure. But it's hard, you know, it's hard when you do something and you try to do it to some level, and then you see it like subverted by this terribleness in video.
My big problem with them is my YouTube feed does not represent what I'm into. I think they've gotten their act together with the recommended list. I think that's great for discovering new content, which I constantly do. And like, I'm not, I don't know. Are you a Reddit user, Paul? Do you use Reddit regularly?
No,
Okay.
no, that's something I don't know why I'm not.
So I am. And I don't ever log into my account because it curates. It curates.
You don't want them. Yeah, you don't want to get their recommended list based on, you know, a couple
based
of
on
spurious,
based on a couple things that I like. I want to learn more about things that aren't necessarily in my bubble of knowledge. And I think it's kind of dangerous when we kind of entrap ourselves in only the things that we like.
Yes.
Yes. So I like being recommended conversations and concepts and ideas and posts and images of things that aren't in my subscription, you know, bubble or interest bubble. The same goes for YouTube. I tend to like seeing recommended videos. I like to see trending videos that I would never be interested in. But what's happened with YouTube is that the trending videos now are their handpicked, selected you know, content creators that they support. It's not necessarily what got the most views, what's getting the most traction. They're gaming it in their eyes for YouTube. And
well, even if it is what gets the most views, right? A lot of time that stuff is crap anyway.
A lot of the stuff is paid for play, allegedly. You know, how many Nicki Minaj or you know, whatever other rapper, Cardi B, on the trending list has 3 rap videos. I mean, it's like all rap videos and a country song, and that's it. That's the trending video. And Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel. I don't care. I don't want to see it. You know what I want to see? Trending videos from content creators. So I want to see YouTubers.
I mean, I understand how the recommended thing works, and I can see the problem. But you could do something like I went on a Norm Macdonald kick one time, right? And so watched a bunch of clips from him when he was doing the news on SNL, which is amazing. Like him taking down O.J. Simpson was beautiful. And in the course of doing that, I watched Norm Macdonald because he would appear on Conan O'Brien, on Jimmy Kimmel, you know, whatever it was. Conan O'Brien, you know, whatever. But a lot of these shows like the Late Night or Tonight Show, whatever, like I could not care less. But because I watched a video that was from that source, now I'm recommended other videos from this program, and it's like I don't even want to see Norm Macdonald videos anymore. I did that for a couple of days. I'm done. You know, like, but now it's part of my permanent profile, and I don't know if I'm ever going to get rid of it, unless
Yeah.
I start watching other stupid stuff.
Like I get only Joe Rogan videos recommended to me, which I like Joe. I'm interested in a lot of the stuff that he does. I think Joe's out of his mind, and I love it when he gets high and he just starts talking about magic mushrooms leading you to another dimension. I think it's hysterical. But now that's all I have on my recommended list is Joe Rogan, and then
Joe
off
Rogan.
Joe Rogan and hair loss stuff. Yeah, that's how you get into hair loss. Paul.
All right, so we're 4 minutes over my allotted
Okay.
time.
Go ahead.
So we need to.
Do you have to leave? Do you have to?
Yeah,
leave?
I have a doctor's appointment.
Oh, get out of here! I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay. So let's go down the list here. You pick. Yeah, it's your turn.
Well, I mean, as a Microsoft guy, I have to point out and you did as well, the problems with Windows this year, and they delivered 2 updates that were complete shit shows. The most recent one was the worst one of all, and I think this proves that the Windows as a service thing doesn't work. They've talked about improving quality and setting things right and blah blah, and we'll see. But this year was a bad one for Windows. It ended on a high note. Granted, we did get that Edge news this past week, which was great. But this system, it's not working, and I hope they can set it straight next year.
Let's see. I'm gonna go down some of mine here. The iPhone. A lot of people had the iPhone on their list of worst of, and I think it's a very interesting discussion because the sale numbers have been low, but we don't know what those sales numbers are, and we don't know why they're low. It could be low that there's multiple phones on the market. Which one is low, which one is suffering, which one is doing better. We really don't have an idea of that. I think you and I spoke about something over the weekend of actual income generated from Apple, but for the iPhone. But we don't know what devices are selling as far as iPhones go. Now, the XR is interesting.
Yeah.
Because they dropped the price on this thing, and I don't know how that's going to affect it, but I know a lot of people that bought the XR, and they say that they bought it because, to them, that's the better phone to have.
Yeah, it's definitely the better value. I think it appears that they've learned some lessons from like the iPhone 5C in particular. They did some things better with this particular phone. I think it's in the iPhone world, it's a good value, but they've not sold well. And in the context of iPhones, it's weird to me. I look at these phones and I think these are all beautiful phones. They're great. They're great upgrades. They're, whatever. They are really expensive. I think a starting price of $999 is a bit much to ask on iPhone, and I don't know if they ever really fix it. We'll see.
What's the price on the XR right now?
I think it's $750, right, for it to start.
And then with a trade-in, it's like $450, right? They ran that special.
Well, so they're having a promotion where they're giving you more on an iPhone trade-in than they used to. But that's just, I'm not sure what, it doesn't lower the price of the phone. It's just a promotion. They're trying to get people to upgrade.
Yeah. Do you have one? How about you pick one?
I would just latching onto the iPhone thing. I think it's rather strange that Apple released the iPhone XR without a case. They didn't even make a single case for it.
Interesting.
They have since released a clear kind of rubberized type case, which just came out, I think, last week. But this thing was in market for 6 weeks without a case. That's incredibly irresponsible. The iPhone XS, 10s, and 10s Max both have a variety of leather and I don't know what the material is, but rubberized type cases. I just thought that was kind of strange.
Definitely, let's mention the Pixel 3. Very disappointed in this because I really thought that this would have been a great phone. They got the overall look of the device. They fixed that problem because it kind of looked cheap. The Pixel 2 kind of looked cheap to me.
But the Pixel 3 XL has a humongous notch, which is insanity. There are already multiple Android hardware makers showing you like what a good notch can look like and how it doesn't have to be huge. And they make the OS, and they made this thing that extends twice the height of the status bar. So you have a double height status bar because that space is unusable. It's unusable space. It's just pointless. So from a design perspective, that was kind of a big mistake. But of course, they also suffered from all the reliability problems again. This is the second generation in a row where they've had massive endemic reliability issues. I bought both of the phones. I wasn't sure which one I was going to want. I sent them both back. There's no way I could spend 700 to 1,000, or I guess, yeah, $1,000 on a Pixel 3 with 120 gigs of RAM and spend another year worried about the reliability of my phone. I had to send my previous phone back 3 times. Like I don't want to go through that again.
Yeah, that's scary too. The fact that there's that many reliability issues. You also had Facebook, and you wrote in the notes, the McDonald's of tech and social media. I guess that was a Chris story. Okay, I saw that.
What I mean by McDonald's though is just because obviously we talked about this stuff, but Facebook wasn't started to hurt people, right? Neither was McDonald's. The point of it was you see a need, you see a thing you can do, you serve some need, and the basics of Facebook are good. You want to connect with people that you know and love, whether they're friends or acquaintances or family. It lets people who are not living near each other keep up with what's going on in their lives. And I still find that part of it to be valuable. But the toxicity of Facebook has led me to go there less and less and less. And, that's what happens with McDonald's. McDonald's is a primary contributor to the obesity endemic in the United States, and it's cheap food that's bad for you.
Delicious, but terrible.
It's part of the problem. Yeah, no, I love it. I mean,
let me tell you, I Uber Eats the other day. Jess was out, and I was a bad boy that day, and it was about 10 o'clock, and I said, I want McDonald's. So obviously I wasn't going to go and drive, so I decided to Uber Eats it. I ordered $58 worth of McDonald's.
Really?
And I sat in my bed.
How do you wait for yourself?
No, my brother was over.
Oh,
but still, $58 worth of McDonald's.
I could feed a family of 4.
No, it's actually McDonald's is very expensive now. It's very expensive. It's not this dirt cheap, couple bucks here and there. If you go and get like the higher end stuff, it can be. Sure. But Paul, I was not in the state to make that make a proper decision.
To the Lexus when there's a perfectly good Toyota in the garage.
I lost my mind. I lost my mind, and I ordered so much food, and I sat on my bed and I ate it, and there was nothing that made me feel better than that moment. It was the best moment in the world at that moment. Just eating my chicken nuggets and my burgers.
My wife made this observation. She drove home from Boston a couple of weekends ago, and she was like, I went to this McDonald's because it was on the way, and they made this thing when I ordered it. So everything came out. It was like fresh and new and hot. And she's like, when it's like that, it's awesome. And I've made that observation before myself. But if I have a kind of a fast food, I don't know. I only go there like twice a year, but the thing that my special splurge thing in fast food is Kentucky Fried Chicken, which is amazing.
I love KFC.
KFC is the Twitter of
talking about the worst of 2018. Let's see what else. Apple Windows Fall update issues. Let's do that.
Well, that's the Windows as a service thing, right? I mean, I think it's the reliability stuff. Yeah,
so they had those problems. People are the worst on the internet, which I had. iPhone sales, Pixel, anything. Let me do one Skype. Of the viewers. By the way, I know Paul has to go. So what we're going to do on the bonus show, I'm going to open up the GFQ hotline. First time in 2 years that I'm opening it up. I'm opening up the GFQ hotline. So you guys could call in on Skype at the GFQ hotline. GFQ hotline on Skype. And I'll take your questions on the bonus show. We'll do that. That'll be cool. Actually, Derek on Twitter wrote to me. He said, Pixel 3. He wrote the Pixel 3 Surface Go. Good idea, but underpowered. Wait for version 2. What do you think of that, Paul?
Yeah, I agree with that. But I wouldn't describe Surface Go as being among the worst. It's just, it's not great. I mean, I appreciate what Microsoft's trying to do there. I think it would have been a better deal if they could have gone with like a Y series processor. Surface Go is a bunch of things that are wrong. It's too small. It's underpowered, and the battery life is terrible. That there are people out in the world who recommend this is astonishing to me. There is no upside to this. It's like, well, yeah, but it's relatively inexpensive, but it doesn't work. So it kind of doesn't matter how inexpensive it is. And actually, it's not that inexpensive. I like the idea of a semi-affordable Surface.
Mm,
This is not it.
yeah.
It's unfortunate, but I don't. It's not like a. I don't know. I wouldn't call it a disaster. It seems to be selling reasonably well. But I would never. I could never recommend this to anybody.
Yeah. And he had the iPhone XR case. Why doesn't Apple love its own phone, which you already spoke about? He
Yeah,
had a lot of your points, which was nice. A lot of that.
that
Facebook
is nice.
Portal. Merlin on Twitter said Facebook Portal, which
Yeah.
I agree. Very bizarre device. I think they just put it out to put it out.
It's like a any Skype or whatever video call capable device, but locked into Facebook's terrible, toxic environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no reason for that to exist. I don't think it's going to be around very long.
Yeah.
Remember Facebook briefly made a phone? It's
Facebook
kind of
made
like
a
that.
phone? Why don't
Yeah.
I remember this?
I mean, they
They
sold
did.
it through somebody,
Yeah, somebody.
HTC or something.
Yeah, I think it was Facebook phone. Let's see what this was.
It's like
Was it
that.
Was it HTC?
You know,
HTC first. Yeah, it was. It was HTC first. It was the Facebook phone.
Facebook Portal. Is that the name of this thing? So
Yeah.
to me, what that is like what Google Plus was to Facebook, right? It's like somebody else is doing this thing. It seems to be taking off. We should do one for ourselves. And I think the problem for Google Plus was that it was sort of like, what was the thing Apple did? Ping. It's just a ripoff of something
Oh
that's
yeah,
somewhere
my
else,
God.
but with our name on it. Like those things are, you know,
Yeah.
we're just going to show up. Like that was one of those moments where Google showed they were just like Microsoft. They were like, if we just make this thing, people will show up, and like,
Yeah.
that doesn't actually work.
All right, Paul. I'm gonna let you go because I know you have a doctor's appointment. I did not know about this.
Yeah.
I would not have. I would have controlled the show a little bit more. I thought we had time today.
No, what I don't have, Andrew, is time. Did I tell you this story? Just real quick.
No,
The
go ahead.
I'm getting some kind of imaging done of my lungs. That's the thing I'm about to go do.
Is that bad? Like a bad reason, or
Yeah, it is bad. So the reason I'm doing this is because 16 years ago ish, I went skiing in Colorado in Breckenridge, and I almost died from high altitude pulmonary edema.
You told me this story. It's wild.
Yep. So I had to, come off the mountain slowly, oxygen tanks and stuff and whatever. And anyway, I survived. I'm fine. And I played basketball for up until last year, and I don't like wheeze and walk around having breathing problems or anything like that. But I did like a sleep study thing, and they were like, you're like not in some dangerous level exactly, but you're kind of weirdly on the edge in this one area, which is related to oxygen. And it's like your body doesn't process oxygen properly, but only when you're sleeping. Because I sleep terribly.
Huh.
And the woman said, this is going to sound like kind of a weird question, but she said, have you ever had any problem with your lungs? And I was like, actually, and I told the story about Colorado. Yeah. And she said, yeah, she goes, I might have some kind of like scarring or something from that. Like I've always sort of thought like this thing that happened to me in Colorado, like is what's going to get me eventually. Like it didn't quite work that one time, but because it happened, I'm more likely for that to happen to me again if I go to high altitude or whatever. So anyway, I'm going to finally get a chest scan. I don't know what the.
Well, that's good. What would they do? Would they do anything?
I'm actually kind of worried about what they might do because honestly, I'm fine. Like I function normally, like I exercise every day actually. And there's nothing like that, but I mean, I could picture like, I don't know. They never told me. I mean, I think they don't want to scare you, but I could imagine I'm going to be in like some hyperbaric chamber when I sleep or something. They're like, you're going to have to be like the Elephant Man at night or whatever it is. Like I
don't know.
Like hooked to tubes and stuff. And, I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah. That actually somebody wrote hyperbaric chamber time. That's what he wrote.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Paul, I at the beginning of the show, I said that this may be our last show, but I was off by a week. Next week will be our last show of the year.
Oh, you got me so excited.
I know. Next week will be the last show of the year, and will we make that a drinking? Can we do a drinking show with that? Or are you going to be busy?
Am I going to be busy? It's
not
a matter of being
like,
busy. Let me. Yeah, maybe. If it might be easier to do that if we change the day.
Okay, what they could do?
Let's talk next week. Let me see.
Okay, or we could do something bonus. We still have to do our prediction show for 2019.
Yep.
So we'll do our prediction show next week. on What the Tech. I may or may not maybe do a bonus drinking show with Paul. Might be fun. We haven't done something. We could do something later, too. That's been a while since we did a late show. Our first show was a Sunday night at 8 o'clock, the first time we did a show together, which is weird.
I'll never do a Sunday show.
I can never imagine doing that again. Oh, we were both young, Paul. Young and stupid. Yeah. Doing a Sunday show at 8 o'clock. Guys, go to our website, gfqnetwork.com. Paul has to go to his doctor's appointment, but I'm going to be here. I'm going to be doing What the Talk, which is our bonus show where we take... this week, I'm going to be taking your phone calls. Now, by phone calls, I don't have the phone line set up, but I do have our Skype line set up, and that's GFQ Hotline on Skype. You could call us with your, give me your best tech of 2018. Something that you really like, something that you didn't, and then give me your worst stuff, something you didn't like. You can follow me on Twitter at AndrewZane. You can follow Paul at The Rot. Also, you can fund us on Patreon, patreon.com/whatthetech. Every penny counts. Every dollar counts. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, guys. Come on. We got 60 people here watching this. Hit the subscribe button because I have to tell you, it goes a very long way. The effort that it takes to hit subscribe is so little, but for me, what it means is so much more because that, advertisers look at everything, right? They look at subscription, they look at downloads, they look at everything. So hit the subscribe button. Right now we have 5,200 subscribers on YouTube, and I kind of want to make that 10,000 by the end of the year. That's my goal for the end of the year. Paul, thank you for hanging out with me. Goodbye. He's frozen. There he goes. All right, guys, that's it for this week. See you later.